Welcome to another episode of the brand called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a young sports person and Olympian from Hyderabad, India, Neha Aggarwal Sharma. Neha, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you. Neha is an Olympian and she is the Chief Partnership Officer of OGQ, which I think is Olympic Gold Quest. She's the only female table tennis player to represent India at the 2008 Beijing Olympics. She's the four-time junior national champion and she's a sports commentator. So, Neha, let's just come straight into asking you questions. What sparked your interest in table tennis and how early did your journey begin?
I was 7 years old when I started table tennis,
Hmm.
and it was actually in my school back then in Delhi. I'm from Delhi, grew up there. My school used to promote two sports, skating and table tennis. And I think just the one brilliant thing they did was that they just made it mandatory for young kids until third standard to just choose either of these two sports,
Hmm.
and they would have a coach, and we would just have classes once in a day to learn each of these. I first started with skating, did decently well, but the coach then, and this I'm talking back in the 90s, so there was no cell phones, no YouTube, nothing. The coach was from Kerala, so he moved back, and then we said, okay, let's move to table tennis.
Hmm.
My brother was doing well at that time in the sport, and he was just a year elder to me. One day he went and won a silver medal in a local TT tournament, which was
Hmm.
organized by the school itself. And that's when my parents got really, really excited about this. And that's how the journey just started. They
Wow.
put both me and my brother into table tennis coaching. And I mean, it was very unusual for both of us back then, especially for me, because I come from a very conservative family. And, for my parents to put their young daughter, especially into sport, was, I think, a big step for them back then. So
Hmm.
that's how it just began.
Amazing, amazing. And can you share a defining match or a moment in your career that shaped your identity as an athlete?
I think there have been multiple instances because as athletes, your targets change, and then your outlook towards things change. I think for me, when I was 12, that was the first time I won the national championship in the under 14 category.
Hmm.
And it was after 20 years that somebody from Delhi had won a medal at the national level in table tennis.
Hmm.
And, Delhi had a very rich history of Manjeet Dua, Manmeet Singh, Indu Puri. I mean, I'm told that there were tickets to watch their matches back then.
Wow.
So
Hmm.
it became, sort of a deal. Media was kind of writing about it. I remember back then I had to go and get a picture clicked, and give it in the press. And when I stood on the podium, and you get the medal, and that's when you realize that, wow, okay, you've really done something which holds meaning to just more than you and you playing the sport.
Correct, correct.
So that's when I started dreaming of playing for India,
Hmm.
and at some point, representing India at the major tournaments like the Asian Games, Commonwealth Games, and eventually the Olympics. So for me, I think when I started playing, I was just playing for the fun of it. I'm not sure if I like the sport too much or not. I used to love hanging out with my brother, but that win in 2002,
Hmm.
sorry, yeah, 2001 was when, really it kind of changed my outlook towards sport, and I started putting my heart and soul into it.
Wow, wow, wow. As a four-time junior national champion, what qualities do you think set you apart at this young age?
I think I think the number one for me was that I was very, 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 very hardworking back then. I used to use a very different technique as well. Nobody else in the entire country was using back then. So it was difficult, it was different. Me and my coach had to innovate a lot and understand what we set up
Mm,
foot inside, right? And learn a lot. So I think I was very hardworking and I was also disciplined. Like for me, my coach told me something and I had to do it. So that way I feel there was a lot of focus growing up. And at the same time, I was able to balance studies as well.
mm,
I did decently well in my 10th and 12th standard. And thus there were no distractions, so it was sort of a single-minded focus towards the sport and then cover up studies as well. So I think these were the two things I would say that really shaped me
mm.
in my early years.
And how did it feel like to be the only female tennis player representing India at the 2008 Beijing Olympics?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest honors of my life. I was only 18 when I qualified for
Wow.
the Olympics. And actually, there were two my other seniors who were sort of the favorites to actually qualify. I beat both of them and I made it there. So the fact that at 18 I qualified and people did not really see me coming because I was criticized a lot for my technique as well. I remember, when I was 14, the chief national coach of the Indian team at that time told me that, Neha, if you want to make it big in you've now entered the Indian team in juniors, but if you want to make it big in the seniors, you might want to change your technique. So, I mean, keeping all those things in mind, and for us, for me, my coach, everyone in my family, qualifying for the Olympics itself was a dream come true.
Huge. Absolutely.
And when you step inside the opening set, I got the chance to attend the opening ceremony,
Mm,
and it's a beautiful, well done ceremony. It was the Olympics was in China at that time, and it's one
yeah.
of the best hosted Olympics. So, I was clad in a sari. Colonel Rajavardhan Singh Rathore was the flag bearer
Mm,
of the contingent, and when you take that march around the stadium. I think that's a very surreal
I can
feeling.
imagine.
I pinched myself twice
Mm,
that I'm there, and um, that's when you see flashes of camera lights, but what you really feel inside is that all that hard work, the sweat, tears, all of that, it feels worth it
mm,
at that moment.
absolutely. Wow. Wow. Thank you for sharing this. And Neha, what role did your coaches, your family, and your mentors play in your sporting journey?
Uh, I think, see, the number one step for any athlete, I would say in general, would be first how they began playing. So for me, it was all because of my parents, my family support. I got the first time I got lucky. Then the second time I got lucky because of having a good coach. His name is Sandeep Gupta, and I feel the passion and the fire he had more than me. So he used to really push me very
Mm,
hard in training,
mm,
and that I think that really defined how we approached our training sessions every single day.
mm,
So I think both equally contributing, but I feel we did what we knew the best at that time.
mm,
I think the resources, the knowledge that we had was very limited comparison to what we were actually trying to achieve at the world stage.
mm,
Right? And say a 15 or a 16-year-old me and a 15, 16-year-old Chinese or a Japanese who are the top TT playing nations, there's a huge difference in the technique, in the fitness levels, in the mental approach,
mm,
and we just knew enough. So there was a gap growing up between me and say the best in the world
mm.
in that age, and I'm happy that now this gap for Indians is kind of bridging.
Okay, okay, good. Fantastic. Now let's now talk about OGQ, Olympic Gold Quest, and you work with them now as their Chief Partnerships Officer. Help us understand the mission of OGQ and how you support athletes across multiple disciplines.
Yeah. So, OGQ was co-founded by two of our sports legends, Geet Sethi and Prakash Padukone, back in 2001, and with a very sharp mission, which is to help Indian athletes win Olympic gold medals.
Mm,
We added para program as well, our para supporting para athletes in 2019. So we added Paralympics to our mission.
mm,
We're very proud to share that in the last four Olympics, India's won a total of 21 medals,
mm,
and the training of 13 of those 21 medal winners has been supported by OGQ.
mm,
At the recently concluded last year's Paris Paralympics, India
mm.
won a total of 29 medals, and
Amazing.
the training of 25 of those 29 medal winners were supported by OGQ.
Wow.
So the idea is that we try to give the athletes the support that is needed for them to excel at the best, at the largest stage, sporting stage in the world, which is the Olympics. And of course, there are milestone tournaments and events, and that you have to do well. And it's a long term journey. So
Mm,
we support athletes from anywhere between 11 years onwards. That's our the junior program has that. We ensure athletes have the best coaches, be it Indian coaches or foreign coaches.
mm,
We provide athletes the best equipment. Sports science is a critical element, and
mm,
so proud of this because something which I never got during my career.
mm,
We have a team of India's best physios, nutritionists, fitness trainers, mental trainers who work 24/7 behind the athletes in their locations.
mm,
We also ensure the athletes are training and competing in the right, tournaments within India and abroad.
mm,
So,
mm.
and we work very closely with the government, with the system to implement all of these because these are all Indian athletes
Yeah.
playing for India at the highest
Correct, correct,
level.
correct. But I was also reading that one of the other things that OGQ does is that it supports mental health, nutrition, and injury management, which I'm told is very important for athletes or sports people.
Oh,
Tell me a
I'm
little bit more about this kind of work that you're doing for Indian sports people.
Yeah, I mean, these are some of the key things where India in general or Indian athletes have been lacking all these years. Say, for example, I had a back injury in 2013. It took me 10 days to find the right doctor who could
Mm,
diagnose me what had happened.
mm,
Yeah, the approach towards an elite athlete is very different from, say, what you would go for any other regular person, right, who's a non-athlete. So we have expert nutritionists,
mm,
psychologists, injury management by our the sports science team. It consists of the physios, right, and the physios ensure that you're not only treating the injury well, but the prehab is good, that you're
mm,
fit, you are avoiding injuries,
mm.
right? That is very critical because sleep, rest, recovery, these are all such very critical elements
Yeah.
when you're competing at the highest level. And the team works with the athletes at a very minute level to ensure that all their health parameters are good and the fitness levels are at the highest.
Hmm. One of the other things that I've often heard speaking to athletes is that while cricket gets a huge amount of money, and even for sports, very often you hear cricketers flying down to Australia for treatment, the same facilities are not necessarily available. Is this beginning to change in our country?
Very much. I think you can say that maybe 10 years like 10 years prior to this, maybe this was the case that we did not have the best doctors. We had to go to the US or
Mm,
UK or Australia to
mm,
figure things
mm.
out, which is also very expensive, right? So
Yeah.
many times athletes just were not being treated well. But
Mm,
I think things have changed massively. Now India has some of the best doctors. But there's a orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Dinshaw Padiwala in Bombay. He's one of the best orthopedic surgeons in the country. He's treated such complicated cases of ACL injuries and other injuries. And then the support team that is available, right? All these folks are now qualified enough to train Indian athletes. So things have changed now. I
mm,
for elite Indian athletes, it's a great time because now if you're there, you will get the right support.
mm,
The government is investing in a big time with the right mindset. There are many other organizations like ourselves
mm,
who support athletes in their journey. So someone or the other, the ecosystem is kind of getting mature from that perspective. And I feel India we should only get better
I'm
in
sure.
our Olympic journey
I'm
going.
sure. I mean, I'm not a sports person. I do play my golf, but every time India wins a medal, it just is. It's such a huge boost, not just to me, but the entire country. And thank you for all the work that all of you do to get so much for our country. Neha, my next question is, how does OGQ collaborate with other stakeholders? Do you have involvement from other federations, from the corporate sponsors, and from anyone else?
So in terms of the sports ecosystem, we actually work very closely with
Mm,
stakeholders, with the Sports Authority of India, many of the national sports federations that we work with. In fact, now we have signed MOUs with the federations of shooting, boxing,
mm,
and archery to provide coaching and sports and support in the Indian national camp.
mm, mm,
We collaborate very closely with Sports Authority of India and their team to talk about the plans of athletes and also what support that they are doing and what is that OGQ can fill in. So there's a very good collaboration.
mm,
In terms of the private sector, I would
mm,
say that it's been fantastic.
mm.
We are a not-for-profit foundation
Yeah.
and we are supported by donations from companies through CSR, individuals, and family foundations. And today there are over 150 companies that support us through the
Wow.
CSR, and it's just very, very heartening to see
Mm,
that private money has now come into sport. The CSR law has done well for sport as
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
The only challenge is that, in terms of the social causes that are there, right? Sport is still not a priority because,
Correct.
of course, of the bigger pressing needs on health, education, poverty, sanitation,
Mm,
climate change,
mm,
etc.
mm,
But
mm.
I think we are very grateful to all our supporters
Yeah.
who shown the sort of the belief in and in the power of sports that really is a tool for nation building.
Mm, amazing, amazing. Now I've got a few more questions for you, but these are now back to you and life after Olympics. Um, Whenever I speak to a lot of Olympians or sports people, the transition from a very, very visible life to life after can become a bit of a challenge. How did you navigate the transition from a professional athlete, and I'm not saying you're not professional athlete now, but into a post-sport career?
I won't sugarcoat it. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Mm,
Uh, one day you're an athlete, you're playing for India, and the day you decide to retire, you're an ex-athlete.
mm,
There's a lot of identity shift that happens.
yeah.
Athletes really live in a very single-minded focus
Mm,
because that's
mm,
what's needed to play at the highest level.
mm,
Um, for me it was really hard to make that transition and mentally shift your perspective and live sort of a life of normalcy.
Mm,
Regular the athletes, you have to wake up every day at 5 a.m. in the morning, show up, go train, sleep, eat, all is for your training, and do it day in day out.
mm,
The pressure, and then the limelight, then and everything that comes with it suddenly is not there.
mm,
So it's hard. The transition is hard, but for me, many elements came in which helped me support the transition.
mm,
The number one was that I went to Columbia University, New York, to study
mm,
sports management, and I think that was one of the best decisions.
mm.
I had a fantastic year and got to learn so much. After that, I worked with the United States Olympic Committee, the International Table Tennis Federation, and got a lot of experience on the other side of
Yeah,
sport and how, because as athletes, all you know, sport is from your perspective.
correct.
But there's just so much more that
True,
goes in to bring
true.
all of those together.
Mm,
And then as soon as I came back to India, I joined OGQ, and that's really been, I would say, for us, it was always, that feeling inside me stayed, from the time I played the Olympics in
mm,
2008, that it is not possible that why aren't we getting the right training support despite working so hard? So the
mm,
effort wasn't an issue. It was the issue that the right systems were not there to support us. And through OGQ, I feel that we're also living that unfulfilled dream and now ensuring the next generation
absolutely.
is having the facilities that
Yeah.
we didn't get during our career. So it's a very fulfilling
Mm,
experience from that perspective.
yeah, yeah,
And thus the transition has been, sort of smooth from that perspective. But mentally, yeah, I mean, it's hard, and
that
the high that you get, right? That feeling of winning that you get, any other thing you do will
can can
not.
never be the
Uh,
same.
yeah, it
Can
never
never be
is
the
the
same.
same.
And you're so right. I've was speaking to one of the very senior coaches who actually led India or coached in the Indian cricket team to win the World Cup on my podcast. And he was also saying that while the star is the sports person in the center, but there's an army of people who are supporting that, and they never are in the limelight.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think what you're doing now is working and to get many, many more Nehas, I'm sure, in the years to come to be in the limelight. Two more questions for you, Neha. You were telling me just now about you're working with the US Olympic Committee and the Women's Sport Foundation. How did organizations like these or an experience with these kind of foundations change your own perspective on managing so many different aspects of sport?
I think for me, the number one learning was that such organizations were very professionally run. That was the biggest learning actually, because until then in India, we didn't see that sort of a professionalism coming. And I saw firsthand that
Mm,
how the United States Olympic Committee is able to support their athletes. I was working at the training center in Colorado Springs, and
mhm.
just the facility itself is so
Yeah,
magnificent. I mean,
yeah.
it would be a dream to be there, and
Mm,
many of the athletes are stationed there,
mm,
and the support that comes in from the committee is at a very professional level. There are
mm,
target based funding that is given for every national sport federation.
mm,
There is good sponsorship money coming in. So everything is a very system driven sort of an environment. So
mm,
that was my biggest learning, and also we were able to implement so many things, right? That unless and until we set the highest standards of supporting our athletes, how will the athletes be able to perform at the
correct.
highest level?
Correct.
So for me, that
Very
was
well said.
really the key takeaway.
Very well said. And my last question, and I'm going to combine two questions in this one. what advice would you give athletes approaching the end of their competitive careers? And how do you maintain a sense of purpose and balance after leaving the elite sport that you are right at the top of?
I think a couple of things. Number one, I feel athletes should know what is the right time to retire.
Correct.
We should not over push as well,
Mm,
because every athlete will know uh, at what level and what is their level and what is their capability vis-a-vis what their targets are.
yeah.
So for me, I think that is the number one thing, to know when is your right time.
Mm,
And second is to start preparing for it, early on. So say, for example, I encourage all athletes to study, finish their graduation, read the newspaper, know what's happening in the world.
mm.
Also try to build skills outside of your sport,
Yeah.
because that is really what will take you further after life
Mm,
after sport.
mm,
Somebody was saying, I don't know where this is from, this definitely taken, that athletes die twice. The first is when you actually retire and you have
mm.
a life. But I think what is the real magic in this is the skills that you've learned.
Right.
You athletes will be hardworking, disciplined. You'll be a good team player. Leadership skills. The ability to take risks, the decision making. The ability to take initiatives, balance success and defeat, and treat them
Mm,
all equally. All these are transferable skills in whatever you choose to do in life
mm,
after sport.
mm,
So I think if we can know this and we can use all of this in the next phase of life, I think that is something which is really needed for athletes.
mm.
So for me, I make sure that I remember that, and not feel that, oh, I'm not, but because now what you're doing really defines you. First, what
Correct.
was defining you was you as an athlete, and now what defines you, what you are doing right now. So for
Mm.
that, your confidence has to be really high, that all these skills you've taken with you and you will succeed in the next phase of it.
Mhm. Absolutely. And on that note, Neha, I just want to say what an amazing conversation this has been with you. You've taken me through such an amazing journey you have been through, reaching right to what is the aspiration for any athlete, which is to represent your country at the Olympics. And you've done that. Thank you for everything that you've done for our country. Thank you for everything you're continuing to do on yourself, on your own, and through OGQ for supporting so many athletes. Thank you for speaking to me and good luck to you.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. This was wonderful. Very,
Thank
very
you.
fun.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.